let's not waste any time. Let's jump into Bitcoin to figure out, is this going to have a pullback before continuation to the upside? Was that it? So let's start answering some of those questions and let's get after it. On my Twitter and on YouTube, my Twitter is at Cosasverdes with the number 2 afterward. If you haven't been following me on Twitter, what are you doing? Go ahead and follow me now. But anyway, my target for a while, since before the move happened, okay, way back here and over here, so between these times here, I posted on Twitter and YouTube. I think NASDAQ is getting ready to pop up to, what did I say, 12,100 or higher. And Bitcoin should hit 32 to 33K. And the way I was thinking that for at least an upper target, not that it would pop up soon for me to make those types of posts, but rather why I had that as a limit target, just because of this. This is the, out of this whole formation, this is the highest local high. And the next one after that's way far up. So it's just an extremely obvious spot. Which is why I felt very confident. The first strong oscillation up on a 4-hour chart would likely go this high. And I think on Twitter, I said, I think it's going to happen ASAP, right? Very strong move up. It happened later than I anticipated, and NASDAQ started moving up right then, but Bitcoin took another day and a half, and then it went straight up. It really did go straight up. So those targets have been hit. Now we have the questions. In my last non-live YouTube video, my third most likely scenario, which was right here, so is right. Let me zoom way in there. I recorded that video when price was about here at 30,300 or so, and it might have actually been on this candle here or this candle here, one of those, because it was after this. The top of this channel was tagged. I mentioned in that video that the two most likely scenarios is that this will have to pull back somewhere to here with the targets that I mentioned before it continues up towards this. But the third most likely was that it does bounce off this and continue up to the target first before a strong pullback. I really thought this was much, much, much less likely to happen, but it was definitely it was the third most likely scenario, albeit a lot less likely than a small pullback first. Now the question is this going to pull back now, or is it going to go up one more time? That's the question on everybody's minds. I felt it was already likely for a small pullback. I wouldn't call this pullback, but a small pullback to here. I would have thought it was likely here. Given that it already pumped up yet again, I think the likelihood increases that it has to pull back first to a reasonable degree. Most likely the magic line in crypto, okay, everybody? Like, when in doubt, put on the 1 hour 200 EMA. Whether you're longing or shorting or picking your nose or whatever, scratching your butt, doesn't matter. When in doubt, okay, put on the 1 hour 200 EMA. It's very, very helpful. And that is a typical pullback area before bullish moves continue. It's extremely common. Bullish moves get continuation up off this all the time. That doesn't mean it's going to take down all the way to here, to 30,000 exactly. Rather, you would extend it roughly at the same slope, maybe losing slope a little bit as the move comes down, something like that. Give it a reasonable time frame to get there as opposed to 1 hour. No, it's not going to get there in 1 hour. It might take a day. So a day to pull back. And you would get a level. Does it match anything looking left structurally? Yeah, looks like it matches with this structure here, or the previous battle line, which is the weekly open. So you have structure, and then you have the previous battle line. I would put a box here for a pullback for two obvious reasons. So it looks like it'll wick below the 1 hour 200, if I had to guess, but that's still my box. Somewhere around there is where I would say it's going to pull back. Now, is the 1 hour RSI below the green zone and below its EMA? So let's pull that up to add likelihood. Okay, we already thought it was likely here to pull back. It pumped again, which inherently makes it more likely to pull back now because it's overdue for a pullback. Just that easy concept. But that's very rudimentary, right? That's not very quantitative, right? You can't really quantify that. It's overdue, right? To quantify this in more charting perspectives, like more legit stuff, is the 1 hour chart gets things right a lot. If the RSI, which is the green line, is below the green zone and has been rejected by the EMA, so it's not in the green zone and it's below its EMA, that typically means you're going to pull back. So does this say it's probably going to pull back? Yeah, it does. Like, this is not really a bounce point for the EMA. I mean, you don't really see that. Like, so let's zoom out. And again, this is the first essentially rejection from the EMA after it left the green zone. So it left the green zone, but it didn't get it went back into the green zone. So that rejection is in the green zone, so that didn't count. So let's mark off a last few times this type of signal happened. And again, this is free information and it's pretty good stuff. So pay attention to what I'm doing. All I'm doing is marking off all those parameters. So for example, this right here, was it the first rejection? Yeah, the first rejection under the white line that also is not in the green zone. Yeah, it's the first one because this one, it went above it. So the next one, okay, this one here, it came below, first rejection, kablam, right? So let me keep labeling these off. This one just tanked, so there was no signal there. This one was okay. I probably would. I'm going to make that a different color. I don't think that's a very good. It didn't go up high enough. This is a good signal right there. Bam. And I'll make that green for money. This one's okay. That signal's okay. I will make that orange, though. That's not a perfect signal because it's not a true rejection from the EMA. So it's not a great signal because this didn't technically get rejected from there, which means it has a decent chance of sticking its landing and continuing up. So it's not the greatest signal. Oops. All right, and one more. Here we go, this one. So we don't have to worry about the green zone since it's not in it. And it's the first lower high that's not in the green zone, which it's not, and it's getting rejected. Bam. And this one's perfect. That's the best short signal. Like that is as good as it gets. All right, so now is there something in the charts saying that it's also going to go down? From a quantitative perspective, you can literally take analytics and measure history and take past results. Is there something else in the chart? Yes, there is. We have this going on with 1 hour RSI. So let's see how good of a short signal that was. This one work? Yes. Did this one work? Yes. Even the OK one, so I labeled that orange because it was an OK signal. Even the OK one was a good short signal. Was this a good short signal? Hell, that was a badass short signal. Like that one was massive. Yeah, that one really ripped down. Was this OK signal? So even the OK signal, look, if you shorted here, would you have been in profit? Yeah. You would have had to take in profits and move your stops down, but that's tradable. Look at that. So from the signal, yeah, heck yeah, 5% of raw price, that's extremely tradable. Okay, and this is another good one over here. Look how perfectly it got that. Remember, I marked this off not looking at price. Look at that. That's exact. That's right before the, look, it's the candle before the drop. See that? So so you can see that this works. Worked here too. Look at that. Let me zoom out. Was this a good short? Yeah. Bam. And it's happening again right now. So there is something in the chart saying you have a strong edge to the downside for a pullback. Now, I got off a VIP call and I mentioned that this move could easily continue charging up, right? But I was referring to the daily chart. After this pullback, I think this has enough oomph in it to keep going. As of now, during the pullback though, how it interacts with my area of my target area is going to give me better information on whether or not it's going to form a lower high or a higher high assuming it rebounds there. I'm usually pretty good about guessing bounce points because it's easy. Everybody's looking at the same thing, right? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. When everybody sees a target, well, there's going to be enough people who stop selling and start buying to give it a bounce point. So bounce points aren't tough. The question is interpreting the interaction with the bounce point and how it interacts to determine is the next push up going to go up. I don't know yet. So However, the daily is saying this move could easily roar up to like 35K, maybe even 36. Yeah, so the daily chart's saying that. But you might think, okay, well, why are you talking about short stuff if you think it can continue going up? So I just got that question on a VIP call, and here's the answer to that. And then I'll start looking at live questions. Well, if it's likely to have a pullback in the meantime, but it's going to roar up, what that means is this. If you draw this out, just something like here, bam. I feel, and let's now measure the days, or how much time that is. So from, I didn't measure it right. So from here to that bounce point is 2 days and 4. Oh, I'm covering it on the, I'm covering up in the video right there. From current to the bounce point is 2.5 days. See that? So the question was, why are you talking about shorts if you think it's going to keep going up? Well, if you want to make money trading in the next 2 days, you have to trade to the downside. Or at least you have an edge to do that. So your edge over the next 2 days, I think, is to the downside. Or at least right now it is. It looks very edgy to the downside for a short-term time frame trade. But that question means that either, in that communication, the idea of timeframes was not clear. You can make money going short and long, right? At the same darn time. But let's say your long trade, the trade that you're in for long, that's a swing trade position. So you're going to have it open for weeks, or you have had it open for weeks, so you're keeping it open. But if you want to make money in the next 2 days, you trade to the downside, although you have a long open on a different asset, right? Does that make sense? So it's a time frame thing. So you gotta get down to get up, essentially. gotta get up to get down. All right. Anyway, and what is that? Coolio from the early 90s. Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. Now, the reason I have 2 arrows here is the information that I'm going to get once price interacts or fails to interact. That is information in and of itself. So if price were to actually come down here and then start charging back up, that the failure of interaction with the target is also good information. That's extra bullish. But the reason I have 2 arrows inside of each other here, let me make this a different hue. Yeah, there you go. Is because once it hits my target or the lack of hitting it, once I get this piece of information, I'll be better able to guess, will it be the small arrow for a lower high before it heads down, or is it going to be better chance of a higher high? Therefore, I want to keep my profit-taking strategy to let it rip a little higher. Does that make sense? So I already know that the daily chart is giving permission to this and actually potential probability. But so the daily chart is saying this could continue going up, but what could affect the daily signal for this to happen is how it interacts here. So if you're essentially stacking Legos for reasons why and reasons why not to, right? You could keep all your reasons why for the daily to go on here, but if it reacts below this 1 hour 200 EMA and kind of uses it as resistance and wiggles around below it, that would also be reasons why it wouldn't go up, right? So it reduces the probability. It could reduce the probability of the daily signal playing out, depending on how it hits here. So as of now, I would guess that this arrow and the big arrow are what's going to happen, but I'm going to be ready to change my answer once price hits or lacks or doesn't hit. But once it roughly has a pullback, I'm going to better determine which arrow I'm guessing. But as of now, I have to pick the big arrow. Making sense there with different time frames. All right, and that's what I get. Yeah, so I think we're gonna have a pullback before continuation to the upside. I'm targeting at least 33 something. I would say 33. Yeah, I think it's gonna go above this box. 33.6 at least would be my guess. But I could change my answer once price hits this, depending on how it interacts with the 1 hour 200 EMA. All right, so let's start looking at questions here. Trias, please. All right. Okay, we'll look at Trias. Let's get it.